Have you ever been so terrified that your heart feels like it's about to explode? Imagine, if you will, a sensation of pure, unadulterated fear. It's not the fleeting kind that prickles at your nerves during a jump scare in a horror movie. No, this is the type of fear that sinks its claws deep into your psyche. The kind that makes your palms sweat and your breath hitch. It's a fear that's as cold as ice, yet burns like fire. It's the fear you feel when you're walking down a dark alley alone, the uneasy sensation of being watched from the shadows. It's the fear that creeps up your spine when you're home alone and you hear an unfamiliar sound. It's the fear that tightens its grip on your heart, making every beat a struggle. Now imagine living through that fear, not just for a fleeting moment, but for what feels like an eternity. That was exactly how I felt during the most terrifying experience of my life. It began as any other day, an ordinary day that quickly spiraled into a nightmare. The sun rose, casting its usual warm glow on the town. The chirping of the birds, the gentle rustle of the leaves, and the familiar hum of the city waking up filled the air. I followed my routine, oblivious to the extraordinary terror that was lurking just around the corner. The mundanity of the day was almost comforting, the simple pleasures of a cup of coffee, the morning newspaper, a casual stroll down the street. How deceivingly normal it all was. As the day progressed, a sense of unease began to creep in, like a shadow growing longer with the setting sun. There were no ominous signs, no premonitions, just an inexplicable dread that something was about to go wrong. Little did I know the horror was just about to begin. As the sun set, something unimaginable happened. The normalcy of the day was abruptly shattered, replaced by a chilling sense of dread that swept over me like an icy wind. It was an encounter that would forever be seared into my memory, a grotesque dance of terror that unfolded as the shadows of the evening grew longer. The world around me seemed to shift, the familiar morphing into the unfamiliar. The air grew heavy, the silence of the evening punctuated only by the beating of my own heart, echoing in my ears like a drum of impending doom. A shiver ran down my spine, an involuntary reaction to the primal fear that was creeping into my soul. Then it happened. The encounter. It was not a physical entity, no, nothing as simple as that. It was an experience, a horrifying presence that seemed to envelop me, gripping me in its cold, unfeeling grasp. It was as if the darkness itself had come alive, whispering tales of terror into my ear, tales that were as old as time itself. My mind reeled, struggling to comprehend what was happening. My initial reaction was one of disbelief, a desperate attempt to deny the reality that was unfolding before my eyes. But as the seconds ticked by, disbelief gave way to fear, a bone-chilling fear that left me paralyzed. The terror was insidious, creeping into every corner of my being, wrapping its icy tendrils around my heart. It was a relentless onslaught, an overwhelming wave that threatened to drown me in its depths. I could feel it, taste it, smell it. It was tangible, a monstrous entity that seemed to thrive on my fear. My feelings in that moment were a whirlwind of fear, confusion, and dread. Every instinct screamed at me to flee, to escape from the horrifying presence that had ensnared me. But I was frozen, trapped in the terrifying spectacle that was unfolding before me. This was just the beginning of my night of terror. The encounter was over, but the fear, the dread, the horror, they were only just beginning. The night was still young, and the worst was yet to come. With each passing moment, the terror escalated. Imagine, if you will, a fear so intense it chills your bones and freezes your blood. That's the kind of fear I found myself enveloped in. It was as if I was drowning in an ocean of dread, each wave more terrifying than the last. There was a palpable sense of doom in the air, as though the very universe was conspiring against me. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, each beat echoing the morbid drum of my impending doom. The darkness around me seemed to close in, thick and suffocating. It was a living, breathing entity, feeding off my fear. It was as though I had become a puppet, with terror pulling my strings, making me dance to its macabre tune. My senses were heightened to a level I never thought possible. Every noise was a potential threat, every shadow a possible monster. The sheer intensity of the fear was overwhelming. It was like being caught in a nightmare with no hope of waking up. The terror was not just something I felt, it was something I lived. Each breath I took was laced with fear. Each step I took was a step into the unknown. I was walking on a tightrope of terror, with no safety net below. I was a prisoner of my own fear, trapped in a cage of dread. But the most terrifying part of it all was the uncertainty, the not knowing what was around the corner. the constant anticipation of the worst. It was this uncertainty that fueled my fear, feeding the flames of my terror. Just when I thought I couldn't bear it any longer, when I thought the fear would consume me, something strange happened. I felt a flicker of hope, a tiny flame in the vast darkness. It was weak and flickering, but it was there. It was this tiny flame that gave me the strength to push through the fear, to keep going. I clung to it, letting it guide me through the darkness. I thought it was the end of me. But I was wrong. The end was yet to come. The height of terror was only the beginning. In the face of fear, survival instincts kick in. Emerging from the depths of terror, I found myself in the grip of a primal force. It was as if my body had its own mind, forcing me to act, to move, to escape. Fear, that chilling specter, was no longer an enemy, but an ally, pushing me into action, helping me to survive. I recall my heart pounding like a war drum, my breath coming in ragged gasps. But amidst the chaos, a strange clarity took hold. I was aware of every detail, every sound, every shadow. My senses were heightened, sharpened, primed for the challenge that lay ahead. I was no longer a victim, but a survivor, a fighter, a human being driven by the pure, raw will to live. I navigated the darkness, my body moving with a speed and agility I didn't know I possessed. My mind, once paralyzed by fear, was now a well-oiled machine, calculating, strategizing, plotting my escape. I was not without obstacles, but each one only served to fuel my determination. I fell, I stumbled, but each time I picked myself back up, propelled by a force greater than fear. I was not merely running away, I was running towards life, towards freedom, towards survival. And then, as if in answer to some unspoken prayer, I saw it. The exit, the way out, a beacon of hope in the sea of darkness. With every ounce of strength left in me, I sprinted towards it, my heart pounding in my chest, my breath coming in ragged gasps. As I emerged into the cool night air, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I was free. I was alive. I had escaped the clutches of terror, but the feeling of victory was bittersweet. I looked back at the darkness I had escaped from, the terror I had endured, and I knew that I was not the same person who had walked into that nightmare. I had survived, but I was forever changed. The ordeal was over, but the scars remained. A memento, if you will, of the spine-chilling encounter that was as real as the air we breathe. The immediate danger had passed, yet the echo of terror still reverberated in the corners of my mind, a haunting melody playing on an endless loop. The world outside moved on, oblivious to the battle within me. The sun still rose and the moon still shone, but their light seemed dimmer, stained by the shadow of that harrowing experience. A new day was no longer a promise of possibilities, but a reminder of the lurking dangers hidden beneath the veneer of the ordinary. I was changed irrevocably, like a mirror shattered and then haphazardly pieced together. I bore the fractures of my ordeal. The person I was before that fateful encounter was but a distant memory, replaced by a stranger grappling with the reality of the unimaginable. The terror had not just left physical scars, but it also etched deep into my psyche. Sleep was no longer a refuge, but a battlefield of nightmares and cold sweats. Every creak of the house, every rustle of the wind, sent shivers down my spine, a chilling reminder of the terror that had once held me captive. Yet, with time, I found that these scars, these fragments of a shattered self, were not just reminders of my terror. They were also testament to my survival, to the strength I never knew I possessed. They were the proof that I had stared into the heart of fear and emerged, battered but not broken. It wasn't easy, but slowly I began to reclaim my life. Each day was a step towards healing, towards understanding that the terror was a part of my past, but it did not define my present, nor would it dictate my future. And so I stand here today, a survivor, bearing the marks of my ordeal not as badges of victimhood, but as symbols of resilience. Life is a series of experiences, some beautiful, some terrifying, but each one teaches us something. From the terrifying experience, I learned a few valuable lessons. 1, fear is not our enemy. It is a compass, pointing us towards the parts of ourselves that need attention, that need to grow. 2, the unknown is not always to be feared. It is a vast and unexplored terrain filled with possibilities and opportunities. 3, courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the decision to confront it head-on. But perhaps the most important lesson is this: we are stronger than we think. We have the power to face our fears, to survive the most terrifying experiences, and to come out stronger on the other side. The challenges we face, no matter how daunting, can become stepping stones towards personal growth and self-discovery. In the end, it's not the experiences that define us, but what we take away from them. This ordeal proved that we can turn even the most horrific experiences into a source of strength and wisdom.